You ready to start the show?
Yeah, I guess. I'm a guest. I don't start the show. I don't know what I'm supposed to
Well,
do.
I can ask if you're ready. I think that's courtesy. Hey, how's it going, everybody? Portable Trevor here, and today I have a very close friend on the show. He is a spooky boy, he loves horror, and he loves filmmaking. Please welcome Jaren Lewis. What's up, man?
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Jerry Lewis here, coming to you live from my room in Trevor's room, kind of.
Jaren, you have probably the most interesting backdrop out of all of my guests. Can you please explain where you are? Are you in a haunted house?
I'm in my house, and I actually sleep in the same room where all these things are. And if you want to talk about the piece de resistance, that's a killer clown from outer space that I've put together with a costume and a dummy prop from Spirit Halloween. Got it on clearance.
Nice. And you sleep in this room. How do you do that?
Well, this isn't the only clown that resides in the room. We get along great.
Do you have any fears at all? Does it
Uh,
the clowns not scare you enough to not go to sleep?
I mean, I never thought clowns were scary. Even the scary clowns I never thought were really scary, Because at the end of the day, like, oh, that's super scary, right? Because it's like a
Hmm.
crazy clown. A lot of people are afraid of it. But at the end of the day, you have to think that that guy spent like time putting on makeup and like a nose and wearing big goofy shoes, and he probably came here in a tiny car. And then you really just think about the absurdity of it all, and it's more funny to me than it is scary.
I got
But
you.
these guys
Hang
are
on, just
scary.
oh yeah, I think they are. Hang on just a second. I'm gonna turn the fan down. I'm being told that the fan is a bit loud. Cool.
Hi, Twitch.
What did you say to them?
Yo, what's funny is I actually have made I'm not I haven't released it yet, but I made a video about like 5 different scary clown horror films that I think are like good, kind of ranked the scariest clowns, and I talked about the killer clown from outer space clown and how creepy those things are,
Mm.
because
I
that's
was
not
actually
makeup.
I was actually gonna talk about that later. Your new show, but we can talk about it now. What is you have a new show like you put on YouTube, and I love it. It's got a really cool aesthetic.
I am
You
doing
got
what
that dope backdrop.
I'm doing what every single video production person is doing right now, since half of us are out of work, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe it's my time to shine on the old YouTube. But I'm having fun because I just get to talk about scary movies, and it's being received so far pretty well. But I've only put out
I
2
love it,
videos, so I got more on the way. Trying to post every Friday, so stick
dude.
it
That's
with me.
great.
Got 2 of them already made. Trying to make another one tomorrow, just so I have like a back order of videos to put out, stay ahead of it and stuff.
That's cool. And you're a horror freak, so where did your love for horror come from?
I'm a horror freak.
What a
Yeah,
freak.
yeah. I mean, I would say that that's pretty much that's what people think of it. I don't know. Like I've always kind of like had a fascination with like creepy stuff. Back in the day when I was like in I think elementary, I don't really remember the grade. I got in trouble because I had a Grim Reaper stuffed like toy. It was like a posable Grim Reaper action figure, and I took him to the playground. And I was telling kids that like when you die, this is who you see. He comes and gets you, and I made a kid cry, and my mom got called, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm telling everybody about the Grim Reaper." They're like, "That's not a thing." And I'm like, "Okay, well, why'd you get me the toy?"
That's funny. And that was that like your first like toy that you remember?
Yeah, I had a, well, not my first toy ever, but first spooky toy. I got a Jaws toy. I have this Jaws toy
Is
that's
it just
been,
a shark?
yeah, it's just a shark. I actually have it right here. Uh, it's I've had this thing since maybe I was like 6 years old, 5 years old. It's like all torn up, and I don't know. It's pretty fun. Big old Jaws toy. There you go. That's one of my favorite
If you
movies.
pulled that out, I'd be like, "Where'd you get the shark toy?" I wouldn't be like, "Where'd you get the Jaws toy?"
I don't know. Every time I see a shark anything, I just immediately assume it's a Jaws reference, which I guess is just incorrect to do. But
That makes sense. So were you all since you had these toys and everything, so with horror for the like your love for filmmaking and horror, did that come at a young age, or was that something you developed?
Um, I was always super like into movies. I really just enjoyed watching them a lot. I never really thought about the like possibility of being behind making them and stuff. I remember like
Mm,
watching like crappy old horror movies and being like, "Man, that concept was kind of cool. I feel like I could pull it off better." And like thinking like what I would do if I was given that chance. The movie The Evil Dead was the movie that made me want to get into filmmaking because it was about a bunch of college kids who basically like right out of school made a scary ass movie, and it was all like friends that worked on it, and it was like super popular and fun. And I've always like wanted that experience to just make something like raw and unique with the people that I know and have a good time doing it.
dude, that's so cool. And me and Jaren actually met in a funny way. We were at a New Year's party, and Jaren kind of heard that I was a filmmaker, and he came up to me and he was like, "Hey man, heard you were a filmmaker." And then he showed me his like GIF Boom account, and he's like, "What do you think of these?" And I was just like, "Man, that's cool, man. That's great." And it was just like him like skateboarding.
You know, I'm somewhat of a filmmaker myself. And it's like 32 frames of me just like
Yeah, pretty much. I was like,
flipping my hat, just hanging out. Oh my god, those were the days, honestly. Yeah, me and Trevor go back to high school, man.
yeah.
Damn.
Well, I already graduated high school when I met you, so
Oh,
you were in high school.
you were just hanging out with a bunch of high school kids.
It was a mix of college and high school kids at the party. At least I think so.
My
But
family used to make
then,
fun of
like a
me.
couple of years, do what?
My family used to make fun of me because they thought all my friends were like freakishly old people, like in
No, you're
comparison.
just really young looking.
Someone, my mom said that about one of my friends. She was like, "That guy looks like super old." And I'm like, "I'm older than him." Like, just because they're tall and have like a humongous beard, I can't help it. Like I have a,
Yeah, when Jaren hangs out with Nathan, he looks like he's 12.
it's depressing. It makes me look horrible on sets. I
That's
try my
hilarious.
best now. I just gotta start dressing sharper to make it look like I'm not a child.
I love like your BTS photos because Jaren will have like his big Sony camera, and he'll just be like so much littler than everyone else on set.
I mean, I'm sitting there just flexing hardcore, letting everybody know what I can do.
Carry a big old camera, and then we met like a few years later. I was getting Starbucks through the drive-through, and I was just like, "Hey, Jared, I haven't seen you in like 12 years or whatever." And you were eating like Little Caesars, and you were like, "You want one?" So I just like grabbed a piece of pizza, and I was just like, I drove to wherever I was going, and I was just like sipping on my Starbucks, eating a piece of pizza. And then like a year later, Jared was like, "You owe me for that pizza,"
You owe me. I think I
and
was
I never
hungry.
paid him.
I was hungry, and I was like, you know what? Who owes me a debt that I can get food out of right now? You're the closest person. No, that was funny. I remember that. Yeah, you can't do that nowadays, man. If someone was like, "Hey, do you want a piece of pizza?" I'm gonna be like, "Nope, sorry. I do want one, but I'm not gonna take it."
Yeah,
The world's
absolutely.
the world's a sad place now. You can't
Do
just
you?
take free pizza handouts.
What's your favorite kind of pizza? Do you like Little Caesars? Because that's what you gave me.
You know what's funny is I really, really like Little Caesars, and a lot of
I do
people
too.
give it so much crap. And I think it's because a lot of people had to eat it in high school at like lunch. They're always giving out Little Caesars, and I was so excited. It's like Friday was pizza day, and it was a Little Caesars, and I always loved it. But I don't know. They're like, if you spend $2, you get a slice. If you spend four, you get two slices. And I was like, I can spend five and get a whole pizza. Like, I think you guys were. I don't think you guys did the math well on this because now I'm just gonna go buy my own pizza.
Oh my gosh. I remember our friend Heath, he posted something like Little Caesars reminds me of youth group parties. And I was like, "You know what? That's why sometimes I'm just not a big fan of Little Caesars."
You know, it's definitely a nostalgia trip wherever you go.
Oh yeah,
I was gonna
pizza
see
is
my
just an
I was gonna see if that green screen thing worked again. Look at that bed head. That's perpetual bed head that I have. That will never go away.
dude, we're in quarantine, baby. It don't matter.
I reckon it doesn't. I guess it doesn't matter.
I think you look beautiful.
Thank you.
But
Yeah,
dude,
Diarrhea Planet T-shirt.
I love it, man.
It's a good
What's the
band.
plan? What's the band?
Diarrhea Planet. Yeah.
I just wanted to hear you say it again.
The shirt gets a lot of people. A lot of people go, "What the heck is that?" Then
Yeah,
they
you
look
have
it up.
diarrhea.
They look it up and they're
I,
more confused because the band's weird.
I bet. So, do you remember the very first time that you finally like used the camera and you like made something that you really liked?
I don't know actually. I feel like I'm trying to think of like when it was so far long ago. Oh, I remember. I was trying to get into like doing like filming interview stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and I filmed an interview of my friend Uriah, and it was just so stupid. We just asked him so many stupid questions. It was like a test of videos, like my first video ever, and I gave him a script or I gave him like questions that are just random questions, and he was just answering them in the dumbest ways possible, and it was hilarious. And I don't know where that video is now. I'm sure somebody has it, but probably a bit incriminating for everyone involved. It was pretty funny. However, we were just a bunch of dumb college kids just goofing off. I miss it. I miss doing the bare bone stuff. I had a Canon 70D setup with this crappy tripod. I can't remember what it was. With just like the Rode shotgun mic setup, and I was like, "This is it." I was like, "This is all I need to make a feature length documentary." Little did I know, I also needed money and time and resources and a sleeping bag.
I remember when I got my first camera, I was like, I can make any movie that I've ever seen with this thing. Because like I don't think I watched many behind the scenes things before that, and then me and my friends like tried to make some stuff, and then like I watched it on my computer, and I was like, how come this doesn't look like Spielberg? Like
I'm
this
ready
isn't
to
fair.
film James Cameron's Avatar 2. Do you remember when we
Exactly.
filmed the knock at your house, the Christmas special on your
Yes,
channel?
I loved it.
I used the 70D for that. That was the camera I used for that, and we just had that simple shotgun mic set up, and it just worked out super well. It was a very easy run and gun.
Oh yeah, I think yeah that one was the Slam, and
The slam,
I
not the knock.
yeah that's honestly one of my fondest memories with filmmaking is just because like it was so pure. Like the day went so well. I think just a bunch of friends hanging out,
I can't believe you
and
got Hulk Hogan to make an appearance.
we had Hulk Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage.
That was impressive. Macho Man Randy Savage being there.
Yeah, but it also like I'm still proud of that. I can watch that video even compared to my stuff now and be like, man, this is still good. I think it's funny still.
That was Brandon, wasn't it?
Yeah, Brandon.
You should see if he'd get on one of these things in his full Macho Man gear. Talk about the Vice documentary he was in.
Oh yeah, I'd love to have him on, and everybody can be like, "Oh shoot, Trevor brought Macho Man back from the dead, and he's interviewing him
That
now."
guy's super nice. I don't know. I don't think Macho Man Randy Savage are super nice, but the guy who's impersonating him now, very nice.
Well, I work with Diamond Dallas Page, and I see Jake the Snake every now and then, and they're very nice people, and they speak very highly of Macho Man. So maybe he was a pretty cool guy.
I
But
like
anyway,
Bonesaw better.
Bonesaw, Bonesaw,
Bonesaw's ready.
you ain't going nowhere.
I still got you for 3 minutes.
3 minutes of playtime.
That's the best movie ever. I'm so stoked that Sam Raimi is coming back to the Marvel universe.
Yes, that's so cool. What were your thoughts when you saw that article?
My first thought was very upset because the director that was originally doing it was actually going to make it very scary and like Lovecraft oriented. And now Sam Raimi, I love him because he's like,
Really?
yeah, I can't remember who was the guy who was supposed to do it. Can I Google this without messing up the stream?
Sure.
Who
Why not?
was original director of Multiverse Madness? Yeah, but I think Sam Raimi, like, if you've seen films like Drag Me to Hell and stuff like that, Scott Derrickson. Who the heck is Scott Derrickson?
I have no idea who that is.
I got you. Give me 2 seconds. He did.
2 seconds.
He did The Exorcism of Emily Rose and Sinister,
Mm.
and so he was gonna make it pretty scary. But I think I can't remember. There was some issue that happened, so he dropped out, and they picked up Sam Raimi. Which, if you've seen Sam Raimi's films, he loves scary stuff and he loves gore, and I think it's going to be pretty goofy though and kind of tamed, and I think it's going to be a fun time. But it makes me sad to what it could have been, like a very seriously like R-rated scary film in the Marvel universe. Could be amazing.
I don't know if it would fit because when I think of Doctor Strange, I don't think of scary or horror at all.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. I feel like they're also doing what Morbius with Jared Leto.
Yeah, and that trailer was pretty weird.
Do you want to know my hot take on this? Can I give hot takes on here?
Absolutely. Is it that you don't think Jared Leto's that good?
That movie's gonna suck. It's like the trailer by itself, unless that trailer was showing a million different scenes of him not as Morbius, as him turning into Morbius, and like the whole film, my prediction is the whole 45, maybe an hour long, is just going to be Jared Leto. It's just going to be him. And then the last 20 minutes, he's going to be the vampire guy. He's going to be Morbius, and he's going to like kind of kill people in like a nothing like in a nothing too crazy, just gonna be simple action stuff, and it's just gonna be like a weak ending setting up a hopefully better sequel, which is what most films do nowadays, especially big like production films. Everything feels like it's supposed to set up the next thing, but we never focus on the movie that we're watching currently.
I know you're already not a huge fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe,
It's not true. Everybody keeps saying that.
but every time I've talked to you, you don't seem like you like them that much.
I think they're so fun, but I just think we have to like take them at a great as a with a grain of salt in our form of criticism and like what we want to say and what we want to like take influence from of these films.
But what's so wrong with saying that they're like great movies? I think they have plenty of depth and
Oh no, I think they're
things
great
that
movies.
yeah,
I think they're
like
like super fun movies. They're
mhm.
fun time stuff. But at this point, man, like what they're responsible for like half the jobs in Atlanta, aren't they? Like
Yeah,
they're doing
it's
good
probably
stuff.
one of the reasons why I'm able to work here.
Yeah, they definitely like. I think the only reason Atlanta is like a film industry town now is because of them. It's because of like Disney. Well, I guess yeah, just Disney doing a lot of production work there. But that's just because all the studio space and like green screen studio things that they have there. There's like a ton of them. Big
Yeah,
warehouses.
Drew said show your feet.
I'm not sure my feet. I got strapped on.
Oh man, I think that'll do it for him.
What if we
And
just did?
Chase said, "Are they cinema though? Are Marvel movies cinema?"
Ask Scorsese, I guess. Like everybody's like, "Wow, Jaren, your opinion and Scorsese's opinion are the same." But I respect Scorsese. No one respects my opinion on these things. Which I mean, again, take everything with a grain of salt. I say enjoy what you want to enjoy because I'm also the guy who likes watching like people get their heads chopped off and like fake blood spray everywhere. So I don't know if I have too much credibility on complaining about anything I see.
I went through a phase where I was like, "Oh, everything has to be autistic or it's not worth watching." And then I realized, wait a minute, I love Marvel movies. One of my favorite childhood movies is Space Jam, and I would still watch that today and get very hype. And Space Jam is not a good movie by any stretch of the imagination, but it is a good movie to me.
I think I got that
And
on hold up.
you have Space Jam?
Oh god. Got the old
Oh man,
VHS.
dude, you got an OG copy.
Ew. Yeah, dude, this movie kicked butt. I actually saw behind the scenes photos of like the guys who played the Martians, and they were like gigantic green like morph suit guys. It's so crazy looking. It looked like it was a fun time to film that. And it's like
Oh, I bet.
people are like Marvel isn't cinema, and it's like you should just put pictures of Michael Jordan with all the guys in the green screen costumes. That's the
I
move.
remember watching an episode of Game Grumps when JonTron was on, and they were playing the game Space Jam, and like the main menu is just the that picture of Michael Jordan like smiling at the camera with all the Looney Tunes, and then JonTron's like, "Look at Michael Jordan." He's like, "Did anyone else get paid a couple $100 million for this?"
Yeah,
And
I thought they were supposed to do another one with LeBron James.
they are, according to the Wikipedia page, I actually looked this up last night. It's supposed to come out in 2021, but I have almost zero faith that the movie will be any good or they're even going to try. Because I looked at the director, and like everything he's made so far is just like crap. So I have like zero faith in it. But it stars LeBron James and Don Cheadle. So
That's all I need. I'll see
LeBron James and
anything with
Don
Don
Cheadle.
Cheadle in it. Honestly, I love
I'm
that
bummed
guy.
Billy West isn't doing Bugs Bunny, but I'm sure it'll be good still.
I wonder if I can get a job doing Bugs Bunny. Just
Can you
completely
do a
read.
Bugs Bunny impression?
No, I'll make it my own thing.
All right, let's hear Jaren Lewis's Bugs Bunny impression.
Oh, hey, how's it going, Doctor? He's a very laid back bunny. Yeah.
Does he like smoke weed and he's just like, "Hey, doctor, how's it
He's like,
going?"
what's up, Dr. Pepper? I don't know. Who's a doctor? Dr. Phil? Did you see
Yeah.
Dr. Phil said that we have 700,000 drowning deaths by swimming pool a year? And I thought apparently that's not true. I think all we have is like 1,000 drowning deaths, like drowning by itself, like over the world is like 1,000 a year. He said 700,000 by pool, which is horrifying. I don't want to go swimming anywhere near that guy.
I've never even looked this up, but have you heard that? I feel like everyone's heard this fact at least like 8 times in their life that like toilets kill more people than sharks. I'm like, I've never looked that up, but I just don't feel like that's true.
Have you ever had a toilet break while you're on top of it? Or like,
No,
just doing your business? Like you haven't had like a seat pop off or something?
no. Is
Well,
that what you think would kill you?
consider yourself lucky then, I guess, Trevor.
Drew said he loved Kazam.
Yeah.
It's a fun movie. Did you see
Yeah,
it?
no, wait, is that the Kazam? That's is he talking about Shazam?
Maybe Kazam was I think the one with Shaquille O'Neal where he's a genie.
I don't think I've seen Kazam, nor do I know of any movie where Shaquille O'Neal is a genie. But I will watch it tonight if that's a real thing.
Did you hear about that? I think it's there was a movie before Shazam or whatever. It was a Mandela effect. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, I know what the Mandela effect is.
And people had it for this movie, and somebody posted like, "Does anybody remember this movie? It starred Sinbad, and he was a genie." And everybody was like, "Yeah, I remember that movie." And even my roommate James was like, "Yeah, I remember that movie." But apparently, everybody was looking it up, and it like never happened. And it was like the weirdest thing ever. Everybody like collectively had this Mandela effect about this movie.
Sinbad as a genie. I think I
Yeah.
know of one pop culture thing where Sinbad is a genie, and I think it's an American Dad reference.
And what is it?
I think it's just Sinbad and he's a genie. I don't know. Like, I think I don't know if you know the show well, but it's Jeff, the stoner guy that lives in the house. He goes to
Hmm.
outer space, and one of his companions while he's in space is genie Sinbad.
Yes, I do remember that episode. I don't think he's a genie. I think he's just like
Oh yeah,
Sinbad.
I'm gonna Google it.
You're gonna Google it? I'm pretty sure he's not a genie. Are you having a
Sinbad,
Mandela effect right now?
American Dad. Yeah, he's a genie.
What? I swear he was like just Sinbad.
Just type in Sinbad American Dad. You'll see his little
Sinbad American Dad.
floating legs. Is he talking
Okay, he
about?
looks pretty normal here.
Oh well, I'm looking at.
Oh
A
my
photo
gosh,
where
whatever.
he's got like a little tail looking thing floating down.
But so Jaren, back to you, man. So I'm gonna pull up your Instagram here. Jaren has a really unique aesthetic, and um, I've helped him a lot with his videos, and he's just a great artist. I love working with him.
You're so
So
sweet
let's
to
take
me. This is so nice.
yeah, man. So this is
Yeah,
Jaren. He's a
look at
director.
my aesthetic is 2 pictures of my face.
So yeah, these two are
4 pictures
Jaren's.
of my face.
Yeah, look at this bad boy. This is the
Bro,
thumbnail
thumbnail.
for this
I know.
video.
One, that's a good one.
And just like me, he loves VHS effects.
That's
Whoa!
TV right here. That's a tiny mini DVD TV I got for like $2 at Goodwill.
Oh really?
Fun stuff.
Oh yeah, you
Yeah.
also have this like really cool 3D camera.
Oh my gosh, I've been seeing a lot of people do these style of photos with
Mhm.
apps and stuff, and you can tell, and it makes me kind of sad. Uh-oh. That's my brother Jordan under that mask.
Whoa,
Yeah, good,
that's
good,
cool.
good reaction there, Trevor. You're like clicking my Instagram. Like, whoa,
Well,
whoa, check
do
this
do
out.
you hear
Whoa.
it? Cause I'm hearing the sound and it's like blowing. I'm like, whoa, that's really loud, and I don't want to stay in it too long.
No, I can't hear
If
it.
it's like blowing everyone's headphones, if they
I
can hear it,
I
I'm not
can't hear
taking
it,
that
Trevor.
chance. Let's see. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
you
that's
do. How do you make these? Because I was really curious about that for a while. Is
so.
this like a Photoshop effect?
I go on Photoshop and just trying to like move images around, and I also used a software called Whirl for a few of these that actually kind of helped generate different shapes, which kind of gave me the groundwork to do whatever else I wanted to do with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had a fun time making all these like little loops and stuff.
And
And
these
these
are
are just
cool too.
those are some film photos I took when I was in Colorado, and I always get bored when I'm editing photos or if I'm not editing photos, and so I always try to like do something to make it look more fun for me, I guess. Hey, there's Chase and Nathan. I see them.
Hey, those are boys. Look at that guy. I was at our house party,
That was a good time.
and Jaren also has these really cool monster masks. This one's one of my favorite.
Dude, I was we were I had a short plan to be filmed, I think like a few days ago. All my shoots got canceled for this month, which was a huge bummer. But we were going to film a short horror film called Tooth, which was this monster was going to be in it, and the whole thing was just going to be so goofy and kind of funny. It's like a guy summoning a demon, and the demon kind of like just goes ham on him, and there's a lot of antics that happen with it, but I was really depressed because I just want to see somebody wearing that thing and me film it again.
Mm. So, what in your opinion makes like a good monster in a movie? Because there's been hundreds of thousands of monsters in movies, but only like a couple of them are iconic, and people are like, I love anytime this guy shows up, or they
Yeah.
see a monster and they're just like, that's lame. I don't want to, don't do that anymore. So, what do you think makes like a good monster?
I think the iconic monsters in like film, like you have like the Universal monsters, which were like the first ones that like really went for it with like the effects and stuff. I think what makes a good monster is it has to look good, like it has to be made well. It has to have like intention and originality in its design. It's got to be just something that's eye catching and just weird. And I think the other thing that can make it good, if depending on the kind of film, is personality. I think if you give your monster a personality, it can make it like a million times better. And people think like, oh, like slasher films, they don't have personalities and stuff. Well, Leatherface and Texas Chainsaw, he has a crazy personality. He's like a crazy guy. He's like yelling and moving around. He's getting mad at himself. Uh, Freddy Krueger from Nightmare on Elm Street is hilarious, and he's filled with one-liners. If you ever watch it, there's so many funny one-liners that he drops. And then you have Jason Voorhees, which is the number one no personality killer. He's just walks, stabs. Same with Michael Myers. They're just like emotionless attackers, kind of. But I think that they look imposing, and I think that for what they're trying to do with the movie, I think it works. So I think it's all you have to have like every ground covered. It's got to look good. It's got to have some personality to it, and it's got to fit with the movie you're making.
I agree, and I think what makes Michael and Jason just so iconic is, I guess, like the characters' reactions to them. Because like,
Yeah.
if they came out of nowhere and the characters were just like, "Hey, look at Jason," hey,
Well,
then they wouldn't like. I don't think they'd be nearly as memorable.
one of the guys who played Jason Voorhees, one of the most notable actors who played him, was named Kane Hodder, and he was
Hmm.
talking about how, like, you have to like it's like, oh, people don't think there's a lot of acting involved. You're just a big guy walking around like knocking stuff over, killing kids. But he said that one thing that he made sure he did with the character is like he never looked down. He never like made it look like he was like trying to see where he was walking. He just confidently went where he was going. Like it was like straight ahead, boom.
Mm.
And he said that he didn't want to show any weaknesses to the character. And I thought that that was kind of like a cool, like into the mind of the people behind these characters actually playing them and what they think goes into it. And so I don't know. I feel like maybe I take it back. Maybe Jason and Michael Myers have a little bit of personality. There's my Michael Myers mask.
I think that's cool looking back now that I think about it, because like I feel like whenever a normal person goes through the woods, like if me and you were to go on a hike right now, we'd be looking down, making sure we don't like step in any holes or step on a branch or a weird animal or a bug. So I guess that would like freak me out if I went like hiking with someone and they just like looked forward the whole time.
Yeah, very confident, almost creepy. It's like robotic, but I think that
Hmm.
kind of works with the character because it does make them look like they're not aware of anything else other than attacking whoever's in front of them, which I think just makes it all kinds of fun.
Oh yeah. Is there an iconic monster or slasher icon that you just think is not as cool as the horror community makes it out to be?
Oh, don't put me on the spot with one of these. You're gonna make me look like a Judas. Oh man, I'm gonna have to think about that one. Like one that I'm not super into that everybody else is.
Yeah. Silence.
I kind of wasn't 100% into the new Pennywise design. I
Really?
love Bill Skarsgård so much to where
Hmm.
it made up for it because his performance was really good. But I think as far as like, I mean, obviously it's iconic and it's like already solidified itself into pop culture. But I just think that they could have gone scarier.
Hmm. And my buddy Zane, he's read it the book like many times,
Yeah.
and he was telling me he didn't think that captured the spirit of what Pennywise was in the book because he felt like Pennywise should have been this very approachable, fun-looking clown like Tim Curry's. Like if you didn't know any context, like you would say like, oh look, there's a fun-looking birthday clown if you looked at Tim Curry's, but Bill Skarsgård is like straight up like almost Lovecraftian.
I love the Tim Curry Pennywise so much. The original It was like one of my favorite films. When I first saw it, I watched it like so. I've seen it so many times over and over again, and I
Hmm.
think that might be a little bit of why I'm not like super sold on the design. That being said, I actually met the costume designer who did the costume for Bill Skarsgård's Pennywise. She came to Lee University to do a talk, and I talked to her for a second, and it's cool because they settled on that Victorian style dress
Hmm.
that he wears, and it's like that poofy stuff, and it's like the old classic clown stuff, which I get because they're like implying because he's years, centuries old, and he's been living on Earth for a while, and he's always been posing as a clown. So I thought that that was like, I guess, a very clever way to like add to the lore and to make it, more fun. I love the first film. The second film didn't get me as good, but the first,
I didn't like it.
It Chapter One was pretty baller. Andy
Oh yeah,
Muschietti's a great director.
I agree. And the first one is just it's so rewatchable too.
Yeah,
Like cuz it has like a Stand By Me like Goonies vibe to it, which I'll always enjoy cuz I guess that's why I love Stranger Things and just anything 80s looking really. And I'm also glad they set it in the 80s so that the second one could be in modern times. I think that was kind of clever.
I feel like
And
there's so many shows now that are kind of like trying to piggyback off of that whole um, group of kids together in the 80s, no parents helping them, like no phones. And I think that's like just the easiest way to like, I guess, build a character dynamic is to strip away like the modern technologies and modern issues that we have to face today, and basically being like, nope, we're in the 80s now, so now all these rules that used to apply don't apply. And I think it just gives people more freedom to make things. But that being said, I think we're also making there's a lot of new movies coming out that are almost like too modernized, like some sci-fi horror that's dropping that's all very weird to watch.
yeah, and to that, I would say there's so many movies that if they were set today, they would be so boring because it'd be like, oh, why didn't that person just call them? Why didn't they just FaceTime? Why didn't they do this? Why didn't they use this phone or this iPad or whatever? So you take all that away, and it feels, I guess it's just a way to make the story feel more interesting.
Do you
Like
think
I'm
it's hard
writing,
to make a character based in like modern times because we have the distractions of like phone and social media and stuff?
I didn't, not every time, I guess in like the situation with like it or Stranger Things. I just don't think those stories would be as fun if because like those kids at that age today have like phones, and if anything goes wrong, they call their mom or dad.
And I saw a bunch of kids on a bike going down the street in my neighborhood, I'd call the cops because I think they're about to like mug me or something, you know? Like, wow, these kids are just like cruising around on bikes. That's scary. Me and my friends were actually at a bar in Cleveland hanging out, and a bunch of kids started BMXing around us. And we walked up to them. And we were like, "Hey, can we take a photo on your bikes?" And they were like, "Sure." And we all got on their bikes and took a photo. It was goofy. I gotta find that photo. It's a good one.
Please send it to me when you do.
I'm just gonna hold. I could probably pull it up on my phone and hold it up to the screen. It's
Sure,
like,
why not?
there it is.
Dude, that's so funny. Is there any like modern tropes in movies that you're getting really sick of besides that one?
Um, I will say, I really will say, like the '80s trope is now a modern trope to me. I feel like it's something that I see a lot of big productions companies doing and stuff, and I feel like it's also something that like, I see a lot of indie like filmmakers do, and I get it. It is fun. I love it. I like the aesthetics of it, but I feel like we can have fun and have the like people are like, oh, they have crazy hair and crazy clothes in the '80s. I'm like, we have crazy hair and crazy clothes now, you know, like we can do costume and character design based around this century, but this century based around this time period, and
Hmm.
still, I don't know, we can still make things visually and aesthetically pleasing without, I don't know, maybe without bringing up the old Nokia phones and whatnot. I say we bring back the '90s. The '90s isn't getting any love right now. Britney
I
Spears was '90s,
That is true. Like, I mean, you know me, I love the 80s and that's been a part of my aesthetic with my
and you
filmmaking,
know
but
me,
I
I
try
love the '80s. All these
Yeah,
movies that
but
are positioned behind me are all '80s and '70s. I love that stuff.
and I'm not saying I'm above everyone else that does the 80s, but I guess the people that I don't feel do it right, the reason I think mine works a little more is because I'm not like, check out the Millennium Falcon, check out these 80s Nikes. Like, I'm not doing that stuff.
Millennium Falcon,
But yeah,
pinnacle of the
like,
'80s.
I don't want, uh, I don't want to have these relics from the 80s like overshadow a story or
Yeah,
what
yeah.
I'm trying to show.
I had a horror short that I'm actually editing right now, where we have a cassette tape as like one of the things that's used in the film, and I think back that like there's a movie called It Follows. I don't know. Have you seen that film?
Is that the one where the invisible thing follows whenever they have sex? What's that
Yeah.
one?
It's not
Okay.
necessarily invisible. It's people whoever has had sex can see it.
Yes, that's it.
Virgins do not watch this movie. It's horrifying. But the film itself, the director has a mix of modern technology and old
Hmm.
technology. So like the cars are old, the TVs are old. But there's like this girl has like a phone in the movie that's like a very nice touchscreen phone. And so what it did was it made people go, "What year is this?" And in the entire time you cannot figure that out. And I kind of like it when movies basically don't put a like timestamp. I think that's what I like. I think I like it when I can apply it to anything I want to, or if I can say, "Oh, this is an '80s film because of the cars that are from the '80s and the TVs," or if I can be like, "Wow, that's a lot of like crazy old stuff back there, and that's a lot of weird stuff there," and just not think about it, you know? Because I think when people like, I think when we see these things, I think we initially think the '80s aesthetic, and I think a lot of filmmakers immediately start to like look for like gimmicks and stuff like that, and I think that that could be harmful to like I guess the narrative. Um, and so I guess I try to say like I think we should focus on story more than theme. This is my TED talk. Welcome to my master class.
Absolutely. Like, and that's funny you say that about that film because that's sort of what happened when I did. Did you see the midnight video that I made?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I made that, um, I wanted everything to be 80s. Like I told my friend Dave, that was the main guy, I was like, hey, can you dress like you're in the 80s for this? And he was like, sure. He showed up, and I was like, I don't think you know what the 80s are. Because he was wearing like Chelsea boots and these like super modern sunglasses. And he was wearing like an Adidas hat that looked like he bought it yesterday. And, but my girl actress Deanna, she showed up. And she looked like perfect for the part. Like her shoes, like they looked like 80s Nikes, and then there's a scene where we drive through with Dave's Camaro, and it's like brand new. It's like a 2013 model or something like that.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to do with that piece is to make you feel the 80s, not necessarily like be in the 80s. Like that's what I would rather have.
Yeah.
Like I
And
wanted I
like,
wanted everyone to focus on the story of them going on this cute date and having a good time and not be so bogged down with like, oh my gosh, they're in the 80s. Look at that, Stranger Things. Whoa,
yeah.
synthwave.
Stranger Things synthwave. Whoa. I guess would you say that like the '80s aesthetic is more of like a time when people it was easy for people to connect with each other like on a personal
Mhm.
level and less so on like a intermediate level, like how we're doing right now, how you're on a webcam and I'm on a webcam and we're just talking to each other. It's like that was a
So
time when they couldn't do that. We should do this show again, only on walkie talkies.
exactly. I wonder how many people will watch.
It's like, Mom, can I go over to Trevor's house? It's like, not until you finish your dinner. And I'm like, ah.
Jaren, what do you think of the 80s?
How did you get this number?
But I the Midnight was on BBC Radio a couple weeks ago, and they said something that I kind of want to hold true to my storytelling, even though they're musicians, not necessarily storytellers.
Art is art.
And art is art. And so the producer Tim, he was talking about how he makes the songs. He was like, you know, we have a lot of modern technology, more so than they did in the '80s, and we like to use that to make you feel the '80s, not necessarily. He's like, because I don't use. He was like, I don't do anything analog. Like everything's like all digital. And he said, but he found like the snare drum, the particular synths that he uses, like he modernized them so they sound '80s. So like you can hear a Midnight song and be like, I feel like I've heard this song before, like on the radio when I was in high school in '88 or whatever. And but that's kind of when I want to hold true to my movies when I do them with the '80s aesthetic, not necessarily be like I feel like I'm repeating myself, but dude, look at the '80s. Look, there's a record player, there's a cassette player, but rather
Yeah,
be like
bro.
this is a more innocent time, I guess.
Everybody's doing cocaine. Fentanyl doesn't even exist at this point.
Look how clean this cocaine is. Everybody's doing it.
Dude, we're just giving this stuff out. I think like there's a Mac DeMarco uses analog recording equipment and stuff when he makes his music. You can really hear that sound, and I think we're all like nostalgic for like times where that aren't now. I guess I think that's like it's. I would say that these tropes kind of play into like just the form of escapism that like filmmaking usually gives people anyways. Is the sense of like, oh, I'm gonna invest in whatever this world is for right now and focus
Mhm.
on that. And I think that these timestamps kind of give us something to hone in on that isn't like, oh, I don't have to worry about what's here and now. I can think I'm back in the 80s or 70s, 90s and be like, what was I doing in the 90s? I don't know. I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh, I think, Pokemon cards, having a good time.
Yeah, dude, and I think a really good example of that, and I might get a lot of hate for saying this, but I really enjoyed Ready Player One. That movie was
Boo!
it
Yeah.
was fun. Like there, I'll be honest, there's some cringy parts. Like I rewatched it a few
Crazy
weeks
action
ago.
scene.
Yeah, the action is gorgeous. Like it's definitely like you could tell Spielberg like took a part of that and like just ran with it. But the things that movie's like a perfect example of like, whoa, check it out, it's the Iron Giant. Whoa, check it out, it's an Atari. But I feel like they also had a story, and it's not the best story, but it was enough to carry you through to make you care about the characters even just a little bit to be like,
Yeah.
hey, those are some dope references.
I think that probably is what if I have any issue with stuff now is that I think we have like this really big problem with fanfare and like trying to make things lovable and marketable when we should just be focusing on making a movie. And this is not a slam at anybody that I know personally or indie filmmaker, developer, anybody like that. This is just a slam at like the bigger companies that are just pumping out crap like and like the new Star Wars films, like it was all fanfare, and at the end of it, you have like some of the most
I
divisive.
don't like them.
You have like this huge divisive series that some people are like dying on a hill to defend, and other people are like kind of mad that nothing really came of any of it. And And then it's like, what do we have? It's like, oh, there's an episode where we put a bunch of little penguin fuzzy guys in there, and we sold millions. It's like, oh, okay, was that the whole point of this movie? I do
Yeah.
love Baby Yoda though, and I will buy Baby Yoda things.
What I find interesting about Baby Yoda though is, um, so they put it out, and they Disney had zero Baby Yoda merch planned.
Yeah,
And so it came out, and then everybody's like, "Oh my God, Baby Yoda! He's the cutest thing ever! I want him! I want him!" Like everybody wanted a plushie, and then Disney was like, well, "Crap, we missed out on a big opportunity. So let's make some Baby Yoda merch." So that tells me that they actually cared about that story.
well, what makes me laugh is that was like such a big mishandling on the marketing on that one is because when they finally made stuff, it was just like a JPEG image on a T-shirt of Baby Yoda on their official website, and everybody was like, "What the crap is this?" And everybody got so mad. But I think they did like a pre-order thing for Yoda plushies, and I think they're now getting sent out. But that thing is adorable.
Yeah, the design is really good. Like whoever did that,
Practical
like
effects,
knocked it.
man.
Yeah, I know. Like they knocked it out of the park.
That's actually a huge reason why I like the Mandalorian is the
Hmm.
use of practical effects. And if you didn't notice when they're doing like the technology binoculars, it looks so like old and dated. And like
Yeah,
I think Blade Runner is another film that kind of does this well. Like there's a lot of movies that like do old futuristic technology, and I love that kind of stuff. Like I love the idea of like, oh, this is like a clunky machine with a bunch of buttons on it, but it also like can teleport you. It's like, whoa, that's cool. It looks horrible, but it's cool looking, you know? Like it's not sleek, it's a little clunky and weird looking, but it gets the job done. That's me. That's my whole aesthetic. Clunky, weird looking gets the job done.
oh yeah, efficiency, baby. And
Ayo.
I did not expect Blade Runner 2049 to be better than the original. Like
Uh
that film
Roger
blew me away.
Deakins, I would credit him for a lot of that.
I
It's
agree. Like
visually stunning.
and I can't believe that was his first Oscar too.
Yeah, didn't he win 1917?
He did,
Mm.
rightfully so. Have you seen the behind the scenes on that movie?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's my
Dude,
favorite thing
I
about it is that if your film, if your cinematography is so good that you basically put editors out of the job, then you probably should at least win for best cinematography. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that every movie needs to be giant, long one-shot takes that cut like there's like 6 cuts in that film or something stupid like that. I'm not saying
yeah.
every movie should be like that because it is exhausting. Like the rewatch value's not really there for me. But dang, it is impressive and it is fun. And that movie definitely was probably the best example of like a film like that I've seen. Because I didn't like Birdman that much, but I love 1917.
You really didn't like Birdman? I love
No,
that movie.
it was alright. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is I didn't like the one shot take in that film because it was more of just like walking around. Well, and this one was the exact same thing, only sometimes they ran and there's
That is most
gunshots.
of the movie. Like walk, run, walk, run, walk, run.
Oh my gosh, dude! That the shot. I was watching behind the scenes of it when they were doing that big running like finale scene with all the
Hmm.
like the big trailer fodder scene. And he runs into that guy and he falls and hits the ground. That was
Hmm.
100% on accident. That was an extra
Yeah.
who completely missed his cue, I guess, and slammed into him. And that was like the shot that they kept in the movie because they were like, "Wow, that worked. Let's keep it going."
It made it much more real, and it made you kind of like tense up a little more.
Dude, he laid on the ground. I don't know if like it showed that, but I was like watching it and like the guy kept running, it's like the dude in the background just on the ground, probably thinking he's about to get thrown off set. I mean, I couldn't imagine what was going through his mind.
He's probably like, I. This is my. What if that was like his first gig ever, and he's
Dude,
just like, no.
I would have been nerve wracked. I would have been nerve wracked anyways because that scene looked so intense, and just to be an extra in that scene looked ridiculous. But I don't know. One thing I've heard is that they filmed around the sun, and so there's like days where the clouds would break and the sun would be out, and they would just have like a whole day of them just sitting around doing nothing, and then they'd all go home and no one would film, and what's his name, Sam Mendes would just be pissed.
Yeah, I bet. And
Sam
to
Mendes,
go
that's not
back,
Shawn Mendes, is it? They're not related,
no,
are they?
Sean is the singer.
Which
Sam
one's
Mendes
which
is the
one?
director.
Which one got knighted?
I don't know, probably Sam. I don't think Sean is British.
Whoa, dude.
But to
That's
go back
that's a
to
heavy accusation about Shawn Mendes.
to go back to the kid like possibly like feeling like he's gonna get fired. I heard a really good story from Pixar. Have you heard the behind the scenes story about Toy Story 2? Like how it was like deleted?
No,
Did you know that?
it was deleted.
Yeah, so one random day like more than half the film was like deleted, and then a lady was like she was like on maternity leave or something like that, so she had like most of the film at her house on her computer, and they were like, "Can we go get it?" So they like got a truck and they drove like 10 miles under the speed limit to deliver the computer. And but when I heard this story, I heard them. I can't remember where I heard this, but the the people that were over it, they said we could have like easily fired someone, but what good would that have done? That would have made everybody freak out even more and just put everybody at like
Yeah.
just made everybody super tense. So I kind of want to carry that over into filmmaking. Like if you freak out over every little mistake, then that's just like not going to help your overall project.
Yeah. And one thing that's cool about like getting to be a director and stuff, like in the films you make, is you kind of get to make the decisions on like almost everything. You know, like you get to do the little like quick pot shot decisions that can really make everybody's mood be good or bad, and like a lot of it is, I mean, yeah, a lot of it's just attitude going into it. And I think if you can keep everybody like excited and wanting to work on it, then I think you can make something good. That being said, put your foot down when someone's like being a dummy and tossing the camera around. You'd be like, hey, knock that off. Or get an AD who will do it for you.
Oh, absolutely.
I had an AD
Um,
that worked with me on a set once, and he was on my case the entire time. That being said, my camera team was the first team ready out of everybody else. We were the first ones ready every single time. We were like ready to go, waiting on you guys, because I had him breathing down my neck the whole time.
wow. What's the most stressful set you've been on so far?
Drunk Spider-Man.
That's funny because Heath is in the chat right now.
Drunk Spider-Man is the most stressful thing I've ever been on because the camera that we were banking on broke right as we were about to film with it, and that was Trevor's. That was mine and Trevor's supposed to be like that was like the masterpiece we were crafting, and we could still make it. We need to make it, but we had this whole like action gimbal scene planned, and the camera we were using was just so it was going to be perfect, and then it ended up messing up. I actually just got that camera fixed. My Osmo, I sent that into Virginia probably like a couple months after that situation happened to get fixed. It
And you just got it back.
took a year, more than a year. Took so long to get that camera back, and I got it, and it's working fine now. And I'm actually excited because I really like that Osmo, and I think a lot of people gave it a lot of crap. They don't even make them anymore. They literally, like, months after they made it, made a different camera and then just discontinued that camera. So now the Osmo's like a tiny, tiny, like it's like this big, and it's like
Yeah, you can put it
4K.
in your pocket.
It's like 4K. You pull it out and it's like film it, but it's so tiny. I feel like I'd lose it. Um, but I still have the other Osmo, which is nice, which I think is the same camera that the Phantom 4 drone uses, but I don't know. But I want to do a gimbal action movie thing so bad. I actually filmed a action scene for Parker Berry. Ambling Alp was the film, and that film just won in a festival, I think, or got
I
entered
saw
into a
that.
festival. I'm not
Dude,
sure.
congratulations.
Yeah, dude, it was a fun time. We filmed a fight scene in that, and the guy who was playing Joe Lewis, our main actor, his name was Jamarcus Kilgore. And there's a scene where he had to get punched in the face, and it was a slow mo shot. And the guy who was punching him is Justin Harper, who's another filmmaker. He's a great guy. He's like big arms, man. He's like a big dude, and he just kept like Jamarcus was like, you have to hit me so it looks real, but we were slowing it down so he didn't have to hit him that hard. And we did like 6 takes of him just getting punched in the face, and he was just slamming the ground after he got hit too. He was selling it, and I was like, Jamarcus, I'm not filming you hitting the ground. I'm just filming you getting your face hit. And I cut to him going to the ground. I started going to the ground with him, but at first I was just staying static. I felt so bad. I watched that guy probably get a concussion. And Parker was like, Jaren, how many times are you gonna let this guy get hit? And I'm like, he needs to be like bruised up in the next scene. It'll be natural. It'll work.
Did you like that set overall?
Oh yeah, dude, it was fun. We had a good crew. Everybody was like super like amped up to work on stuff. The day before, I was on a set for like I don't know. I was on like a 2 day set. It was like a whole week of just short films, and then right after that, we stayed up to about 2 a.m. filming that at this boxing ring in Cleveland. And the next day, I went to film another short that ended up lasting to like 3 a.m. And then by the end of that weekend, I was just done. I was just like just collapsed in my room. I couldn't do anything. I was like looking at my camera, and I was like, I don't even want to touch you right now.
Dude, let's talk about Drunk Spider-Man, because that's a film no one will ever see, and I remember us being so excited about it, and so this was like 4 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, probably.
You, and so
That was
I
like
had
one
this
of my
idea.
first moments as being a DP. It was like so disastrous for my confidence on everything because
Yeah,
we had a
I'm so
huge
sorry,
cast
dude.
and crew. You know, it was sad.
Yeah. So basically, it was me and Jaren. I had this idea that I was like, oh, what if this guy was dressed up as Spider-Man at this party, and he got kicked out, and then his journey is that he's walking home, he hears a cry for help in this house, and he runs in. It's like these goons have this girl tied up, and he drunkenly like wants to fight these guys, and somehow he like wins, like fighting like super drunk, and then he just like passes out, and then the real Spider-Man comes in, and he's like, ah, not again. That was the whole film, and it was such a disaster. I was very inexperienced as a
Same
director,
and same as me
and
as a
I
DP.
like, dude, if we were to do that now, I can confidently say like I think it would work.
We could make a whole
But
short film that people would love. It'd be hilarious.
it's a good idea still. Like I still, even after all these years, I still think the idea is hilarious for a quick short. But so we get on set. I needed like I wanted like 20 people for this
We had
because
so
I
many
needed.
people
I
there.
know it was ridiculous. I don't even think we got
Oh
10.
god.
And uh,
We ended
Heath
up
said,
filming something though, didn't we? I thought we ended
yeah,
up
we
filming.
filmed two things. So we filmed the part where my friend Heath, who's in the chat, and Heath just said Jaren's favorite thing about that shoot was hanging out with me. I think that was the first time Heath like met all of everybody, so that was a good night for
I
that at
haven't. I
least.
didn't even see that there was a chat that I could be like in. I can't log in though.
No, so on StreamYard, Jaren, if you look to your right,
Oh, I found.
uh,
I just found it now. I'm
yeah,
just
you can
looking at it now.
you can click on the comments. But yeah, so I had Heath, who I really wanted to be the main character, and he did everything I needed him to. Like he was really good as it. Like I just
Dude,
was like,
I actually
you're
thought
really
that
wacky and drunk.
I thought that he
Do
was
what?
drunk and Spider-Man.
You thought he was really drunk and also Spider-Man.
He was a method actor. He got hammered before he showed up, and it was perfect.
So everybody shows up, and I'm like so excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is finally happening. Like I've always wanted to do like a big crew set. Like Chase showed up, Wade. Oh yeah, and this was a great start to the night. So Wade shows up, and I was like, I that was like the first night I hung out with my friend Wade, and I was like, can you do BTS photos? And he was like, sure, because I wanted to feel official by having a BTS guy there.
Yeah.
And so he gets there, and we have all our gear on the hood of my car. Then like we had a really quick schedule because everybody had to like go home like earlier than I anticipated, and so we have all the gear there, including Wade's camera. And then Jaren was like, all right, we got it, let's go. And then so we're like grabbing everything like really quickly and moving it, and I grab Wade's case for his camera, and I like yank it off, and Wade had his case open, and the camera just goes flying, and I
Oh,
immediately
I
break. Wait,
forgot
you
about
forgot about
that.
that?
I forgot about that. I forgot because I was sitting there. I was like, man, that day sucked. I was like, but something else sucked more that happened that night. And I forgot what it was because I think that happened, and then like the tension and the mood was just so like we just stumbled through that night. Honestly, we would have came out better if we just didn't film that movie at all.
Probably. And like
Oh
mine and Jaren's
god,
confidence was very shot after that, but it's great
I
because
was so
we didn't
sad.
quit.
I was like talking up that camera the whole night. I'm like, it's gonna be so fun. We could be using the Osmo. Then I'm like, it's not working. Why is it always
Wade's or he said Trevor yeeted Wade's camera.
Oh my
Man, that
god.
sucked. And then
At,
like
at least we
I
had
was
Heath,
so
and there's a couple other people there. Was there a guy named Kyle there, or am I thinking of Chad?
no.
Chad Kyle something.
I
Um,
don't remember every single person, but I remember my friend Jacob Barnes was there. Caleb Pace, we filmed at his house. That's where we did the
Fortunately, that
basement scene.
everybody that was there with us was super chill and nice, and everybody still was like managing to make it like a good time. Like even Wade was very calm and like collective about everything. I think it was just me and you, internally just having panic attacks the entire time we were doing this.
Oh yeah, dude. I think if we did that now, we would kill it. Like I think
Yeah,
we're much more
I think
experienced
we
and we
should.
understand.
I've been wanting redemption.
We need redemption for that shoot. But
Heath, will you be Spider-Man again? Put it in the chat if yes.
I think I still have that mask in my car somewhere. I'm almost
It
positive.
just says like Heath logs out. It's like, oh, no.
Heath is like, no thanks. Heath said, I'm pretty jacked now, so yes.
Yeah, like, rock
You're
on.
way more buff now, so you can play Spider-Man.
Gosh, we
You're
should
gonna be
just.
buffer than the real Spider-Man.
You know what we
Spider-Man's
should.
pretty lean.
What we should do is that day when we refilm this, is we should just film every scene 3 times with a different superhero mask on, and then every Halloween we'll just put out the other version of this film, like drunk
Genius.
Batman, drunk Captain America, drunk Barney the dinosaur.
And then that's something like everyone can look forward to for like 10 years. Let's just make 10
It's
different
just the
films.
same movie with just a different character.
And then when we finally run out on the 11th year, let's just from then on superimpose the mask on Heath so he's a different superhero like forever.
Drunk
We'll never run
Superman.
out of stuff.
That'd be funny. Drunk Chase. I think Chase
Drunk,
is drunk currently in the chat.
probably.
You and the boys just hop in the chat, slamming back some brews. Dang.
Me and the boys. So Jaren, what's some other stuff that you're working on now, dude?
I mean, honestly, the YouTube thing's kind of a new development. I'm just hoping to stay consistent with it. I think it's fun, and I really do enjoy just like talking about scary movies. And now in this format, I'm not holding people conversationally hostage. They choose to click and listen to me rant about these things, and so it kind of makes me feel better about the views that I do get because it makes me feel like
Mm,
they're a little bit more intentional. Um, and also I don't know what it is, but something about like putting up stuff that's like not posting on Instagram kind of makes me feel a lot better about myself because I don't know, like I usually get so depressed with social media. But other than working on that horror short, which I have no idea where that's gonna go, I might just put that up on like Vimeo or something. Um, top 5 horror movies you should watch tomorrow night. If you haven't seen Evil Dead, watch that one, then watch the second one, and then watch Army of Darkness, which is technically the third one, and then watch the remake of Evil Dead, and then uh, Cheaper by the Dozen.
that's a horror movie?
Have you seen Cheaper by the Dozen?
Yeah, you're right, dude. I like how it's Evil Dead, Evil Dead, Evil Dead, and then Steve Martin.
Evil Dead, Evil Dead, Evil Dead, Evil Dead, Steve Martin. And all 4 Evil Dead films are vastly different, and you'll get different experiences from each one of them.
Dude, heck yes. What's the one that you was it Army of Darkness? That's the one where
It's
he's
my
got a
favorite.
he's got a chainsaw for a hand and
That
he's like fighting off a bunch of evil.
Yeah, it's my favorite movie of all time. My number one favorite movie is Army of Darkness.
That's amazing.
I have an Army of Darkness like setup shelf. That shelf right there is my Evil Dead shelf. Everything on there is Evil Dead themed. I'm gonna see if I can not mess up my audio stuff, and I might just take you over there.
Dude, do it.
Can you hear me fine?
Heath said that's his mom's favorite movie for real. I can't hear you at all. Whoa! Look at that skull. He's completely. You are completely silent right now. Hello? Jared? Look how cute he is. Oh no, we're gonna have some audio issues. Jaren, go to the gear thing at the bottom of StreamYard and click audio and make sure it's
Hey, Trevor.
there you are.
As my thing can unplug. Oh boy, I hope I don't unplug my mic. I can't hear what you're saying.
Now it sounds like you're talking through a can.
Right now it sounds like that?
Yeah,
This is a struggle and a half. I'm on the struggle.
this is going great. This is a great. At least we're an hour into it and not at the very beginning.
I'm a Twitch professional.
That's better. There we go.
Interview with a Vampire is a great movie.
I've never seen it. What's it about?
Well, it was a vampire, and they just,
Interview
talking
him?
head. Yeah, bunch of talking heads.
So what's
you
it
wanna
like being
see-
a vampire?
If you want to see the modern Interview of a Vampire, it's called What We Do in the Shadows, and it is hilarious.
Yes, I love that movie.
Yeah, it's a very good film. I always thought that was funny because I was like, is this Interview of a Vampire? Because it's like a talking head of a vampire. And it's like, I mean...
It's a TV show now. What We
Yeah.
Do in the Shadows.
I heard the TV show.
I've not
had
seen it,
some
though.
Moments. I haven't watched it either, though. Yeah, I got sad. I
Mm-hmm.
had a class where a professor showed the intro to the TV show credits, where it was like the old photos of the vampires, and he was talking about how funny it was. I was like, "Hey, did you know this is based off a movie?" And in the movie, they do the same thing, only longer, because it was like a 10-second clip he showed us. It was so goofy.
That's hilarious.
Oh,
But yeah, we were
that's
talking
2
about
years ago.
we were talking about things that you're working on. Like, no, you're doing your YouTube show. But is there anything you've had backlogged forever that you're like, I need to finish that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to, like, I guess, formulate old plans that, like, I wanted to start for a while, but just didn't have the time. This whole quarantine thing has kind of, like, put a lot of stuff that I was working on the back burner, which was very depressing at first, but I'm excited for, to get back at it and start working on stuff. I have become a much better editor throughout this time because that's pretty much the only thing I can do. Which, I mean, I need more practice on editing anyway, so that's nice, but... I don't know. I have like a bunch of music videos I'm gonna be doing in the future and stuff like that. Maybe a production company name change or something. Because right now
Ooh.
I'm just JarenJLewis.com, but I'm thinking about mixing it up a bit. I think I've talked to you about that, but I don't want to give away too much right now because I don't think anything's ready to be put out there yet. So.
Ooh, I know the potential name.
Oh no, that name is the name now,
Oh, sick.
and we have a logo designed already.
Oh, I know the name, but I don't know the logo.
The logo's pretty funny. My friend Parker Berry did it.
Oh, heck yeah. I love Parker's work.
He's great at drawing and like doing designs and stuff.
My roommate James might be making a logo for this show right here, which I'm excited for.
Can I be on?
I'm thinking about calling it, yeah, just your face. Because you got a cute face. I'll get millions of views because of that.
Trevor Talk with Portable Trevor, the talk show, also featuring in one episode Jaren Lewis.
Yeah. Making the most out of isolation is all you can do.
Introduce me as a surprise guest host, potentially every episode.
And our potential guest, Jaren Lewis.
I just log on and I'm like, hey. Someone's like talking about something super serious and like meaningful to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yo, have you guys seen Evil Dead? I've seen Evil Dead so many times.
Because of this guy. But yeah, we might be getting a logo. Might be calling it Talking Portable. That might be the name, but I'm not entirely sure yet.
Is that just walking and talking?
Do what?
It's just walking and talking?
Talking Portable? No, just talking portably. Because I'm Portable Trevor, I guess.
How portable are you really, Phil?
Not right now, because I'm quarantined. But
Are you PSP Go portable, or are you Game Boy?
PSP Lite.
Or are you Game Boy Advance portable?
Dude, the PSP was great. I wish that thing
know
took off more.
You know what's funny is I
Maybe.
actually loved the PSP Go, the one that slid
Mhm.
up that came out after the PSP.
Yeah, that was cool.
I was like, this thing kicks A, and that's when they started doing the PSN network stuff. Like originally was with that, so you can like download games. And I was just like walking around with like no disc. I'm like, I'm playing Thrillville. What's up?
I actually had a PSP Vita for like a month, and then I realized I don't think this thing's going anywhere, and I like immediately took it back to GameStop.
I never got the Vita. It did feel like it was released at the wrong time. It feels
It
like they
really, it was way too advanced, and it was way too expensive.
what was the oh, I actually have found in my garage recently a PlayStation 1 with the screen that connected to it, which it's like, so it's like this little laptop case that's a PlayStation 1, and I was like, "Whoa, this is crazy." And I opened it up and the game that was in it was Digimon.
That's awesome. Heath said, and that's when the house burned down and we lost everything. Yo, have you seen Cheaper by the Dozen?
Cheaper that doesn't scared the hell out of me.
I
Jamie
think
Lee
there
Curtis
was
is
2
in it.
more
It's
movies.
practically just Halloween because she's in the film, so it's the same
Yeah,
thing.
any movie Jamie Lee Curtis is in is automatically
Just like the
Halloween.
Zune. My cousin Keenan had a Zune, and he used that thing up until like I think the iPhone 5 came out.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
That thing was cool. I remember on youth group trips there was this guy in the group that had a Zune,
There's
and I
always
would be like
one.
with my iPod, and I was like envious because like the layout and the just everything about the Zune was way cooler than the iPod. It just didn't take off because it wasn't an iPod.
Yeah, and that's how I feel. I think that's how everything nowadays works. If it's not like got an Apple on it, then good luck. Samsung's like making phones that can like talk to you and like live their own lives if they wanted to. They got get like robot legs and do things. And then it's like Apple's like, oh, we made it easier for you to play Candy Crush, and everybody's like, yeah, yes, yes,
I
it was
am.
Digimon World for PS1. That's the game that's in my PS1 right now.
I know Heath loves Digimon, but
Yeah, dude, that was the stuff.
Heath showed me an alternative. I don't know why this made me think of this, but Heath showed me an alternative theme song to Yu-Gi-Oh. It came with like the McDonald's disc or something like that, and the Happy Meals.
Zune was physical Spotify. Someone told me a rumor that Spotify was actually made by the same people who made Zune. I have no idea what you're talking about. Alternate theme songs. I will say this for Yu-Gi-Oh, I had the sliding armbar
Yeah, the
gadget.
thing was awesome. I wanted one so bad.
Um, I watched a kid get punched in the face with one of those at my school, and it was crazy. There's two
Did he
things
like
that
lose
got.
a match?
I think there's like an argument or something. I saw two things get kicked out of my school. I saw like they banned the stupid Yu-Gi-Oh hand things, but they didn't ban Yu-Gi-Oh cards. And then the other thing they got rid of was Beyblades because it was back when Beyblades were metal and like hard, and we would
Hmm.
just fling them at each other, or we'd go up to the top of the playground and shoot them down the slides. And some people would be climbing up the slides, and we'd just be shooting Beyblades at their face. And like a kid like got a broken tooth or something, and they were like, "No more, we're done." It was such a bummer, man.
Also, are you
Uh,
saying Beyblade?
Beyblade, whatever it was called, let 'em rip. Beyblade,
Yeah, Beyblade. Let it rip.
Beyblade, let 'em rip.
Also, one of the
Let it
worst theme
ride.
songs from a cartoon. I can't believe they made a cartoon out of that, by the way. But it was like, let's Beyblade, let's Beyblade.
Well, let's not forget that in Yu-Gi-Oh, they like killed his uncle, and it was like a Spider-Man story arc, and he had to like fight with trading cards to like get the soul of his like
That's true.
grandfather back, and also like the soul of like an Egyptian god possessed this 14-year-old boy, and all he would do is just his eyebrows would go from like this to like,
And his hair was bigger, and he was
and his
taller.
voice would drop like 10 octaves. It's like he goes through immediate puberty, and he's just like, I'm going to be the dual master.
Yeah, I always laughed whenever he's like, I need to win this match. Time for this guy to take possession of me. And it
Yeah,
was
because
just like,
it's like,
what the
it's like,
heck is
dude, why don't
this?
you just let him take over? Because obviously, like, why did you even begin this match? If you could switch to the guy who's always gonna win, it's like, why did you even bother messing with this? It was dumb. Favorite Yu-Gi-Oh character, go. Mine is Black Eyes Red Dragon. No wait, Red Eyes Black Dragon. Wait a minute.
J-
Yeah, I think that's right.
You mean Blue Eyes White Dragon?
No, there's an alternate version. Red Eyes Black Dragon was the bad
Oh.
guy had that, and there's a three-headed version of that guy too.
I always thought Dark Magician was cool, and Joey.
Joey.
I thought he was funny.
There's one.
He was like overly new, like Brooklyn.
There's one character on it that's like a dragon, and it's just called Big D.
Really?
Yeah. I actually have these cards somewhere. I'm sure it's in there because I always saved that card when I found it because I was like, this is funny.
My other favorite thing about Yu-Gi-Oh is that they could never decide what they wanted to be. Did they want to be edgy or did they want to be cute? And they're like, I don't know, let's do both. So they'd have these like adorable like little monsters fighting like Blue Eyes White Dragon.
Some of the monsters were creepy as heck, man. Like Relinquish and all of them, they're all scary. Like when it got like Cthulhian and Lovecraftian, they all got like super creepy looking.
Oh yeah,
I like the
Yu-Gi-Oh,
cartoon
the story
version.
of a young boy who gambles to avenge his dead uncle and sells his soul to an Egyptian god. That sounds about right.
I thought that was just the story arc of Frasier.
The Cheers guy gets his own TV show. That's the story.
Cheers, guy. What is that? What's coming? It's the Cheers guy. We gotta get out of here.
Dude, that's the Cheers guy. Get out. But yeah, dude, Jaren. One more thing I'd like to talk about before we close is
Yeah, let's do it.
so me and Jaren actually helped me DP this documentary that I'm making about my friend Miles,
Yeah.
who's actually going to be on the show Sunday, and I'm
Oh,
really
rock
excited
on.
about that.
I need to tune into
Yeah,
that.
and also Miles told me to tell you, hey, I told him you were going to be on tonight,
Ah, rock on.
and
Hello, Miles. I guess I will. I guess. I guess I could just text you. I don't know. Hi.
sure. But yeah, so basically it's about this guy who he played soccer and like some other sports in his hometown where I'm from, and he was just he was an amazing athlete, and now he is the head coach of this really successful soccer team in my hometown, and it's just really the story about a guy doing what he loves despite like, maybe some people might perceive that as annoying or kind of immature or something that why would you stay in your hometown, but really he's like so happy where he is, and I think that's cool, and that's kind of part of his story. But Jaren, like, what was your experience shooting with me on that?
I mean,
And
Miles
we're
is a
still
cool
not
dude.
done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Miles is a great guy, and I've been having fun just tagging along and filming. It was a good time with what we've been doing. Yeah, I think it's cool. It's like a hometown hero who was giving a lot to the community because he kept just winning and making everybody excited. And then he was like, you know what? I'll stick around. And he's just, teaching the next generation to do the same stuff he's doing. And so I think it's a fun story.
Mm.
I think Miles is a super cool dude and he's easy to talk to. He gave me a free Cleveland soccer t-shirt.
Me
And I wore
too.
I wore it to the gym like I think twice because soon after we filmed all this stuff started happening. And I can't remember, some guy was like, "Oh, did you used to play for Cleveland?" I was like, "No, bro, I just got the shirt."
That's hilarious.
Friends with the coach.
I'm gonna send Miles this clip. I'm sure he'll love that.
Yeah, it was funny. The guy who said it didn't look like he was like old, so maybe he was like a dad of like a kid or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
But what if he
but
was like stolen valor? And he just yelled at me and just
he
went
just like
after me.
tackles you in the gym, starts bench pressing your
I'm like going home
unconscious
from the
body.
gym and a bunch of Okoe soccer team kids come up to me. They're like, "Rival, get him!" They start kicking me.
Phony.
I'm like, "I'm not even on the team." It's like, "Oh, so you're a phony, huh?" Oh man.
Yeah, I think um, I, I think I may have worn that shirt only once, and it was the day that we went to the game with Miles, and it
It's
was
very
so
comfortable.
freaking cold.
It's a very comfortable
It
T-shirt.
is a
I
nice
like it a lot.
shirt.
Yeah, it's very nice to run in. I think that's why I like it. But yeah, I don't know, dude. Like, I'm excited. And you know what's funny is that like after filming those interviews and stuff, I was like, dang it, man, I really want to like continue like doing some doc stuff because I've been like
Mhm.
switched over on narrative work, and I just forgot how much fun it was and like how much of a real filmmaking experience it is to just be doing documentary work and stuff. And I think it's
Mhm.
really cool. And you just had a documentary get entered into a festival, the Death to Life, and
Yeah, Death
that
to Life.
yeah, that thing's looking
I mean,
crazy.
I can't take credit that it's mine, but it's my friend Nate Powers.
Yeah, you
He,
did a lot of the camera work, and it looks good.
yeah, thanks, man. I'm still getting mileage out of that A7S2 somehow, but
Dude, mine's giving me issues right now. Remember I told you when we were
really,
filming that, it's like, it'll say like camera error, and apparently it's like a shutter issue where my shutter will get locked. And at first it was like, the only way to fix this is like sending it into Sony or like buying expensive tools and like screwing around with your camera. And I'm like, that sucks. And so I'm sitting there and I'm just like in my room and I'm like, I'm just gonna turn it off and turn it on until it works. And that was my thought. On the like 20th try, I turned it on and I like messed with the zoom and like shook it a little bit and it worked. And so now every time I turn it on, I like zoom in a little bit as I'm turning it on and I don't have an issue. Doesn't make any sense. That being said, I think my image stabilization might be messed up. So now that camera is like only a tripod camera. Just because I don't
And
trust it. And I
yeah,
do
I
not trust
really
my
want to upgrade.
I use it for
Like I like the
photography.
camera.
Yeah, I think it's a great camera. I had a guy ask me not long ago if he should upgrade to a camera or any camera, and I always recommend like if you're starting or if you like want to do more video stuff but you don't want to go too crazy, it's like an A7S II. I'm like that's a solid camera.
Oh
It
yeah.
can 4K, like it will do you well. And he was like using Canon stuff, and I don't know. I always like push Sony products on people, and I feel like a jerk doing it. That being said, you're a Sony guy. Nathan's a Sony guy. I'm a Sony guy. Isn't Robert a Sony guy, or is he Black Magic?
He is Black Magic.
Oh, well, whatever. He can go ride his Black Magic high horse somewhere else. We're gonna be over here being Sony boys. We're gonna be talking about the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man.
We can only like the Sony movies. We're not allowed to like MCU movies.
Yeah, screw Tom Holland, man. Take me back to when they made the Green Goblin
Was he on
just a
Sony?
guy.
Was he on Sony? I don't think so.
Sony's gonna like take away my camera after they hear me tell that second Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2 with the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man 2 was probably the worst. Not just the worst Spider-Man movie ever made, but just probably one of the worst films I've seen in a long time. Like, it made me so upset because I thought I was going in there to watch Spider-Man action, but I saw a romantic comedy, and at the end of the day, they bastardized my boy, the Green Goblin, and it made me very sad. And I loved the actor who they had playing, or who they had that was gonna play him. I just hated the costume design on it.
It was pretty bad. The whole movie was just a mess.
Yeah, was it Jamie Foxx in that movie?
Yeah, remember the
Forget
part
about
where
that.
remember the part he had a gap in his tooth and he gets electrocuted and it goes "Yeek," and it like fixes the gap.
My favorite part is when Jimmy Fox is like, "Oh my gosh, I have all this power. Why am I a bad guy?" He's like, "Spider-Man." He was like, "Wait a minute, that guy's standing over there." Like his motivation was like so stupid because he was like, "No one sees me except for Spider-Man. He's so nice to me." And then he's like, "Oh, now I'm a famous person," and he's like, "I hate Spider-Man." It's like there's no reason for any of it. It didn't make any sense.
It's
Um,
very jarring. And then when Gwen Stacy dies,
That's
it's
the best
like
part of the entire film. That was the only part that was like true to the comics that was like intense, and I don't know. But I think the worst part of the second Spider-Man, the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, I thought the first one was incredible. I will say that. With the lizard, I loved it. I loved the lizard. The worst part of that movie was at the very end. There's this in the trailers. In the trailers, they had him fighting Rhino, and at the very end, him and Rhino are running up to each other. Missiles are flying out. Bombs are going off. They get right next to each other, and it's like freeze frame credits. And I said, nope. And I stood up and I said, that sucked. That movie, not only was that movie just a bad movie, but at the very end of it, they said, hey, this is the thing that you wanted to see? Well, think about it on your way home. You dumb idiot. You just spent $18 for these tickets.
it was
Hope it was
embarrassing.
worth it. Yeah, no, I was depressed. I was very sad.
It also bummed me out because I don't think Andrew Garfield's the worst Spider-Man. I
I
mean,
thought he was great.
but he was so. I don't think anyone else has ever been as passionate to play Spider-Man as Andrew Garfield, and he like completely like just missed his chance.
I think his portrayal of Spider-Man is one of my favorites because people are like, oh, it's either the young kid, which is like our Tom Holland, even though Tom Holland's like 30, and then you have the Andrew Garfield, which is like the more skater kind of Spider-Man, because like he had like super cool Nike SBs on and stuff, and I was like, I relate to this Spider-Man. I was like, this guy's fun, but I don't know. Tom Holland's
I like
weird because he's
how
like
everybody.
an adult.
I like that. Well, Andrew Garfield's like freaking 30. He was 30 whenever he played Spider-Man. Tom Holland was
Yeah.
like in his early 20s.
Yeah, but I think he was like a college kid in that Spider-Man. I think that's what they were like implying. Tom
I don't
Holland's
know.
like a ninth grader and he's like 32. I think he's like
He's not that
26.
old.
Yeah, I don't think he's that old. But
But
it's
Jaren, I
funny.
think we're gonna end it here, man. Like,
Yeah,
is there anything else you want
we
to say,
can't keep
man? Or
roasting Spider-Man.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, hey, thanks for having me on, dude. This was fun. I enjoyed talking to you, and I
man.
honestly I missed the heck out of you, bro. I've been missing you since you've been in Atlanta, and I just had a good time talking with you, dude.
Yeah, man. I miss you too. Let's
Th- Thanks
FaceTime and
for
hang out sometime.
thanks for having me on. Next time you FaceTime me, don't put me on Twitch. Gosh.
That's exactly what I was doing. I tricked Jaren into doing my show by being like, "You want to hang out?"
He's got the headphones on with the professional mic. He's like, "What's up? Hey, bro, how's
What's
your day
going on?
going? Hey, you mind if I record this?"
That's exactly what I did. All right,
No,
see you, Jaren,
appreciate
and
you, bro.
follow Jaren. He's gonna be doing a lot of really cool stuff in the future. Go to
Family
his YouTube
Affair,
channel.
Family Affair on YouTube. I'm putting out different things on directors, on horror film reviews, like movies to watch, yada yada yada. I'm kind of figuring it out as I go along, but enjoy the initial insanity of the process.
Yeah, cool.
Family Affair,
Well,
woo!
definitely check that out. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Means a lot. And make sure you subscribe and follow the channel. See you later.
Peace
Bye.
out, dude. I'm not sure on my feet. I got straps on.